I refrain from using, phrases like deep state.
Right.
What I think is more accurate is techno bureaucrats, right? So you get a layer of technocratic, bureaucratic expertise that's there for 20 or 30 years, that's risen up through the ranks. And so you get to that GS 14 or 15 level. So 14 is equivalent to about a lieutenant colonel, 15 is a colonel. Then we have your senior executive ranks that are the general levels, okay? And to put it in the military parlance. Those people have been around a long time, okay? They see elected people come and go, okay? And so if they're given an order, we call it the slow roll, right? Right, the slow roll. Why? Because that person is on to something else in 2 years or 4 years if they're voted out of office, and you can slow roll it. Yeah, we're doing it, but you're really not doing the full intent of the order.
You're running the clock out. Yeah.
You're running the clock out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to American Snippets. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have another awesome show for you. Our guest today is Ron Hammond, a former CIA operations officer and U.S. Army Guard officer. He has over 28 years in the intelligence community where he focused on the Middle East and South Asia, more specifically on combating terrorism and stopping the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Ron maintained professional involvement in the defense industry for a number of years, developing cutting-edge technology and running related businesses. Today, he is fully invested in his solution to censorship, the attack on free speech, and access to full and truthful news. His solution is in the form of a new platform operated by himself and a number of highly qualified professionals from various areas of the military, government, and our first responder communities. OpsLens is emerging as an innovative and interactive platform at the forefront of patriotism and current events. In this episode, Ron Hammond talks about the personal and professional side of his life as a CIA officer, his work in the defense industry, and how OpsLens is poised at the tip of the spear that is piercing through the censorship and civil unrest that we see today. So without further ado, here is Barbara Allen with Ron Hammond.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of American Snippets. I'm your co-host, Barb Allen. I am already having a good time with today's guest, Ron Hammond, and you are about to have an amazing time as well, I promise you. And hopefully we'll make this fun for Ron, who is not only is he not used to being on the receiving end of any kind of camera, he was actually trained and specialized for years how to stay away from the camera and how not to be known. But he did it to himself because he put himself out there on a whole new platform, which requires him to do all this. So we're happy to be part of the push for him to do what he needs to do. And we're super excited to be a part of that as well. Ron Hammond, you're a former CIA agent, man.
Yes, I am. But
that's just fun to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, we like to say officer. So
officer,
we recruit,
right.
Yep, we recruit agents
right.
To do our work for us, and we are the officers, operations.
Okay. Well, once upon a time, you were recruited as an agent, so that was technically a correct statement. Just saying.
Okay.
You were once upon a time an agent and an officer. Okay, so speaking of, how does that happen? Like, were you recruited, or is this something?
Actually, no. Well, it happens a myriad of ways, but the way I was done, I just applied. There were
you just walk into some office and say, "Hey, here's my application."
I applied to an ad, and next thing you know, you meet in a hotel room, and they talk to you, interview you, and it takes a series of several days, and you take some tests, and then if they're interested, they call you back, and then there's a series of extra things that go on. But yeah, Yeah, I just applied. It was only two things I wanted to do: Marine Officer Flight School or CIA.
So you just grew up knowing those things. I either want to be a Marine or I want to be in the CIA.
One of those two. Yeah.
So what exactly does an ad for the CIA look like? Does it say we're hiring for the CIA, like in Craigslist? Like where did?
Yeah, usually it used to be. Now they're everywhere.
Yeah, right.
But it used to be like the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times overseas, and Chicago Tribune, papers like that. They would run a page, or half a page, and it would say, it'd have the CIA emblem, or maybe the world, and it would say, give you a series of questions in the ad about challenges. Are you up to the challenge type of thing?
Right.
And if you say yes to these, then you should put your resume in with us, because we have a job for you.
Cool. So you walk into that hotel room. How old were you when you did this?
I was 23, 24. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 23, 24. Yeah. Had you gone the college route? What had you been doing the past
I went
years?
to college. I was genetics was my background, genetic engineering. I got out of college. I worked at a biotech company for a while I was waiting to figure it out. Put in to do the process, and it took about 18 months.
From the time you saw the ad to the time.
To the time you onboarded. Yeah, it's 18 months.
All right. So you go through this 18-month process. You're in the CIA. What's your first day on the job?
Well, the first days are basically student type of days, right? So you're in an environment where you're given classes. What's the structure of the organization? What's the history? What's its importance within the U.S. government? And you're given a very broad brush but deep exposure into what is the CIA all about and how it functions. And then you go through a series of other classes after that because you're there with other prospective officers as well. And everybody's learning together about what it is to be an officer.
Right. Okay. So does that impact things like in your relationships that you have, family, friends, when you go into something so so intense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. The interesting thing is that the agency gives you the freedom to and latitude to bring those into your inner circle that you trust, meaning break cover with those people like your close family.
Okay.
Which I always found nice, because they trust us enough to validate the people that we're bringing into that circle, right?
Right.
The problem is you can't tell an 8-year-old that my dad's a CIA officer, right? Yeah. So it's the timing of which your kid better, your family better. So you're the one that should be able to tell them and bring them in on that secret. The downside is you bring them in on that secret, and you're asking them to perpetuate a lie, right? So there's a weight that comes with that when you ask somebody in to disclose what it is that you do and who you're doing it for, because they have to then help protect you, right?
Right.
So that's the tough parts about it, and that could be the strain. Typically, it is on relationships. That and the fact that we leave on assignments when you're undercover and you're an operations officer. You have a go back and you're ready to go at moment's notice. And a lot of times you're traveling and you're in alias. So there's not a lot of calling back home.
Yeah.
Right? Or checking in with your spouse. So your spouse has to really, really have a strong relationship with you and understand that you're going to be gone for time periods where you can't say anything. You can't check in.
Yeah.
So that's a tough thing.
What's a typical, is there like an average time that you would be gone? Like week,
it
6
varies.
months?
It varies.
What's the longest time you were gone?
Longest time I was gone, about 5 months.
Okay.
So,
all right. So 5 months. Honestly, yeah, like as a military spouse, you're like, oh, okay, 5 months. Like, that's, but yeah, it's different. It's still hard. You really have, like, the person on the other end also has to have their shit together in a lot of ways. Like, cause you got to be able to like run everything at a moment's notice. If you had these plans, especially if you have families and kids, if you had plans like, oh, dad's going to take you here and I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. And all of a sudden that ground falls out. You have to be able to
you're left with the kids having to deal with the home front, all the issues.
Yeah.
The
Explaining
spouse,
to the kids, like, hey, why can't daddy make it to this event? Like,
exactly. Why is daddy missing my birthday? Or why is he missing Christmas?
And he can't even call. Yeah.
Why hasn't he called and checked in and talked with us?
Yeah.
Well, he's busy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a tough thing. So if you have little cracks in your relationship, those things tend to create chasms.
Yeah.
If you go overseas, right, which you typically do, you take your spouse and your family overseas to a posting. If in the traditional sense, if you're in cover with respect to the more USG related organizations like Department of State and things like that, you'll take your family over. Now you're in a foreign environment. So magnify all those issues that you'd have at home, but in a foreign environment where
that might be a deal breaker. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough.
There's no support system. There's none of that. And it's not like you can move into somewhere and be like, oh, my husband's in this. Yeah. Like you can't have a block of CIA agent families, like all helping each other and supporting each other.
Well, that said, you're not supposed to, if you're undercover, you're not supposed to fraternize with other people that could be in the agency at the same organization that you're at in that country. So you have to keep your distance.
Right.
And then the other people who are not typically agency, that are real officers in, say, the Department of State or whatever, they play games. Oh, that person's this, that person's that, and it's a difficult time sometimes.
Yeah. So were your, the assignments that you got, were they these assignments that were actually, were there dangerous elements to them that you obviously can't tell your family about them?
Yeah. Not all of them, but it depends on what danger is. Like there was,
like a chance you might not come home from work that day. Dangerous.
Yes, there were those. Yeah. There were those. But the bulk of an operations officer, typically what they do is we're supposed to gather information on behalf of the U.S. government, right? So a lot of what you see in the TV and what's become with operations officers since the war on terror is more proactive and kinetic, if you will, interfaces with the enemy. Typically, that's not what we're trained to do. We're capable of doing that because we have sanctions from the executive branch to be able to conduct covert action. We're the only one that can do that, right? The CIA. So you have to be trained for that and capable to do that. And there are times when I was involved in those activities, absolutely. But the bulk of an operations officer's life is typically to find sources of information that can benefit the U.S. government.
How do you go about doing that? How do you land somewhere and just feel like, oh, that you look like someone I could talk? I mean, how?
Yeah.
How do you just identify those people?
It's doing your homework. Yeah. So you're going to know something about the country because you've studied before you've gotten there. The government structure, the power players, and then basically you have a list of targets that you think could give you access. Some of that comes as happenstance. Some of it's pre-planned. Some of it is determined by other branches saying, we want information in this realm or this area. And these are the people that basically are in that area. Okay, so I'll figure out how to get access to somebody who has access or direct access to the person.
Cool. And so all this time you're taught, stay out of, don't draw attention to yourself, blend right in, be a part of this.
Exactly. Unlike James Bond types of stuff.
Yeah.
No. It's the plainer you look and the plainer you act and the more low key you are. You want to be the gray guy or gal who walks into the room
and no one remembers.
And like, I was there, but nobody remembered.
Dude, they should have hired me in high school. I would have been the bomb. Literally, I could have got anything from anybody. There's people I meet now, they don't even know they were in high school with me. Like still, and beyond that, I feel like I missed my calling. I feel like I could have used my scale of obscurity, my secret power. Look at it like a secret power instead of the way I did. I just thought I was a loser. Who knew I was an undiscovered CIA operative?
There you go.
Man, missed it. But for anybody else who's listening who may feel like, you're constantly ignored and overlooked and nobody knows you exist, you might be designed to be a CIA operative. Who knew? See, there's opportunity in everything, right?
Exactly.
So about how long were you with the CIA?
A little over 13 years.
Okay.
And then I left. It was around 2000.
What prompted that decision?
There was a lot going on at the agency at that time, government in general, but the agency in particular. It was a tumultuous time. Probably half the students that were in my class that became officers were gone by that time.
What was going on?
Well, there was a lot of structural changes that were taking place inside. And one could also argue that we were drifting away from the more core essence of what operations were. At least that's what I thought.
In what way? What way did you feel that way?
Well, there's a lot of you're seeing elements of that now in today's society with political correctness. We can't do things certain ways. We need to be more worried about having the gem for employee morale in the back than figuring out what we need to do with respect to operations in that area. Not taking risks like we used to in terms of bold risks in terms of the acquisition of information. It was not the way it used to be. And so a lot of us felt like, okay, don't want to deal with the struggle, and left. And so I left and went to work for EDS, and which was a IT company, and realized, what a joke. I mean, this company is 160,000 people, and how does it make money? It doesn't even know the customer base, because I was basically helping consult back into the Intel community, IC. And I said I could do this on my own. So me and a couple of friends left and started a company. I left EDS and started a company called Spectal. Spectal, specialized talent. And so everything that you found in the agency, my company was a microcosm of the agency. So I went to Iraq 5 times with with my company, and about 3 to Afghanistan. And
to do what?
To help with the war.
Help in how? Did you carry water bottles? Did you get intel? Like how?
We were embedded with the officers working.
All right. And so that was almost like a private contractor. Like
it was a private company.
The government hired you?
Yep.
The government hired you. So you left the government agency to become a private contractor for the government. Yep. Doing the same work on your terms.
In a kind of roundabout way. I didn't want to. I went to work for EDS and was going to just phase out. But then the war happened. I hated EDS. So I was like, okay, let's make our own company and figure this. We can do better than this. And we did. That company was, a lot of the biometric stuff that you see, we developed it. We were bought by a company called L1 Identity Solutions, which all the biotechnology that you see was pioneered from that company and my company. So for identity management, we ran the watch list at one point for the country. We were doing a lot of stuff.
Wow, that's quite the
it was
legacy.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, anybody who was in the Army that used the hide, it was a little pocket thing that, right? I developed that. It was, you basically take the photo of the eyes, the irises, the face, and the fingerprints of anybody that you stop at a roadblock or after an IED went off, and you do a biometric search on them. All of that stuff was developed through my company.
Yeesh. That's pretty awesome. So then at some point, though, you're like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going to sell this.
Yep. So I sold it, stayed on board for a little bit, a few years, because they ask you to. And then I left in like 2010, because we sold the company in 2006. I stayed on board till 2010, and then decided to do a different company. It was called RAI. Ronan Associates is what it was. And it was similar to Spectal, but more tech related.
Okay.
And so I started that in June of 2010 and grew it to about, 70, 75 people by 2013. And then the people who bought my company before came back and said, let's put this company together with some other tech companies and do some other stuff. So I said, sure. So they bought into that company, and we grew it under this thing called the Radiant Group. And we did a lot of geospatial work. So one of the things
I'm nodding like I know what that is. I'm like, geospatial work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, geospatial
I don't know what that is. Okay.
We call it geointelligence, right? Where you're basically getting a three-dimensional picture of, in this case, the enemy, to be able to help the DoD. That's what we were doing. So if you ever saw, I think it was Dark 30, that laptop where they were going around Rawalpindi.
Right.
That's what we developed. Actually, that laptop was probably, I'm surprised that was in the movie, but.
Wow. So you know what? I got to say, not that you need me to tell you this, but I'm already feeling like you were among the perfect people for the job, because I'm sitting here talking to you and you're like so unassuming. You're like just talking about this stuff like, oh my gosh, I was at this event last week and I saw this person. They did, like, it's so common. Like just listening to you, you really have to sort of process what you're saying, because it just sounds so normal and so conversational. But what you're saying is just huge stuff that is normal to you, right? But the average person, it's not normal too. It's actually super out there. And it's one of those things that it just doesn't occur to you that, you yourself could be a part of. So I feel like I could talk to you for 12 years and just keep going, and get into all this. So is there a moment on the job or in any of your career capacities, right, that just sticks with you, like where you had a moment like that aha moment, they call it, or a moment of clarity, or like a poignant moment, or something that really shifted your perspective on life in general or your work, like one particular incident that you think back, you're like, oh, that is a day I will never forget. It's obviously something that you can talk about.
Gosh, very good question. I think, I hate to not give you one specific, but when I look back at the involvement in the IC and in the agency, it was one of those things where you don't take time to think about it while you're in it, but when you're out, you look back and think, gosh, we did some really cool things and pushed history just a little bit one way. Nobody really knows, but we pushed history just a little bit that way for the good. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the overall feeling that you get when you're an officer with the agency. It's a great place to work.
Yeah. Would you recommend it today to somebody coming up and saying, like, I have a son who's going to college for forensics. He's hell-bent to be in the FBI now, like a ballistics expert he wants to be, right? If he was into, I want to be in the CIA, what would your advice to somebody coming in?
Yeah, because and it's a different organization today than it was even 10 years ago. At its core, I think I would say, okay, look, do you like dealing with people, or do you like dealing with tech? It sounds like your son likes dealing with tech. So I would say, if you like dealing with tech, go to the science and technology director, become a technical operations officer, and you'll have an unbelievable time. Do it while you're in college. They have internships. And you can differentiate yourself, right? Because not just anybody is going to be able to get an internship in college and do the partying lifestyle like some do, right? you can't do that. But I would say definitely get in early, get in through college if you can, through a rep, and send in your resume. What they will want for more the operations side is now more seasoned people. And what I mean by that is, they've always wanted people with dual languages. They've always wanted people with some experience, but even more so now, they like that you've done work in an overseas environment. You've been able to show that you're adaptable, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I got another son of mine who would probably be perfect for that. I got a lot of sons. What can I say?
This is awesome.
That's what I did for a while.
And my hat's off to you for that. That's awesome.
Seemed like a really, really good idea at one point. And it's only just starting to circle back to, oh, wow, that was a good idea. But for a while there, okay. So there's a lot now in the news about the CIA and deep state and all this stuff. And in your opinion or insight, when it's so easily dismissed by a lot of people, if you bring it up, like if I bring that up in conversation, obviously the word crazy comes into play, conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, all that stuff gets thrown at you. What's your thought on that? Is it a tinfoil hat club that would be open to the possibility of that? Or is there a potential that stuff bears looking into?
Yeah, I think it's great question. I think how I look at it, I refrain from using, phrases like deep state.
Right.
What I think is more accurate is techno bureaucrats, right? So you get a layer of technocratic, bureaucratic expertise that's there for 20 or 30 years, that's risen up through the ranks. And so you get to that GS 14 or 15 level. So 14 is equivalent to about a lieutenant colonel. 15 is a colonel. Then we have your senior executive ranks that are the general levels, okay? And to put it in the military parlance. Those people have been around a long time, okay? They see elected people come and go, okay? And so if they're given an order, we call it the slow roll, right? Right? The slow roll. Why? Because that person is on to something else in 2 years or 4 years if they're voted out of office, and you can slow roll it. Yeah, we're doing it, but you're really not doing the full intent of the order.
You're running the clock out. Yeah.
You're running the clock out. I think you're seeing a lot of that because a technocrat / bureaucrat who now has 30 years of service says, I know more than that person that is telling me to do contrary to what I think because I'm the expert. And you hear that word a lot. Scientific expert in this. I hate the word expert. I like the word experience, right? And experience comes in all flavors, right? Mm-hmm. And, a lot of times you become stovepipe in your experience within the IC in certain aspects. That's what you see. So, and you don't give credit to somebody like a Trump who comes in with these other ways of looking at things to say, oh, well, that's not the way it's not been done here, right? That's not the way we've done it before. Well, okay, but where's it gotten us?
Right.
Didn't get us some peace treaties in the Middle East going about it the regular way, but it did currently the 5 peace treaties that he just laid down before he's exiting office. So I think it's a bureaucratic state. And unfortunately, I think now, because of the business side, and I'll be the first to say I was part of that, right? I left, I started a business, and I was back in helping. And there was that bond that we all knew each other, right? Yeah. There's some good that can be had from that. There's some bad that can be had from that. And what I think we're seeing is the bad that's going on right now. They know better than everybody else, and everybody should shut up and listen.
Yes, that sounds like a familiar mantra in my life that I am being told very, very often. Okay, you said something a little while ago when you were talking about how you left and started your own company because you said, we can do better than this. It seems like that is also something that is ingrained in you, something that either you turn to or which turns to you. Which way it is, I don't know, but it seems like something that you do and how you roll and how you operate, because it looks like you've said that again lately. We could do better than this in terms of mainstream media and what is being put out there and what the public is being told. People like me, by the way, I would say I represent the majority of Americans in the fact that I don't have access. Like, I don't have an understanding of what's actually going on behind the scenes. I don't know what could be going on. I'm forced to rely on what comes out, like what is publicly announced, right? And so I'm dependent on those who dole out that information and how they choose to dole it out. And that is the case with the majority of Americans. And so what has been doled out to us is 96%, 97 or 98% slanted one way, and very little percent slanted the other, giving an opposing view or just a questioning view. And so most of the people in my world are over here and telling me I'm crazy, or I'm worse words than that, a horrible person, I'm a terrorist, I'm Al-Qaeda, I'm tearing this country down, all this, just because I'm questioning, what is out there. And the rest of us are sort of being hurt, like they've herded us out, but what they didn't understand is happening is that by smushing us all together, now we're all together, right? Like now.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we had to find a place to land, and there's new platforms out. Dan Bongino's Parler and Rumble are two of the biggest ones, but you have come out with your own platform and your own solution to this. Talk about OpsLens, what that is.
Got it. Thank you. There's 2 aspects to OpsLens. To echo what you just said, I was always frustrated because I'm looking at the news, I'm watching the television, or reading the articles, and I'm thinking, what has this person done? What has Rachel Maddow done, really? To basically discuss these issues other than read some books and talk with some people, but she hasn't done the work, really.
Right.
And so what I wanted to do is have a platform that comments and gives opinion through the lens of operational experience. It's OpsLens, right? Okay. And basically, we set up the website with respect to articles. And so there are articles, and a lot of the people that are the contributors have served in some capacity, whether it's in the military, the diplomatic corps, local law enforcement and first responders, the intel community. They've served in some capacity to have garnered experience to be able to talk from. Okay?
Yes.
I don't tell them what to write. And in fact, a lot of the contributors love that. They've come to me and said, well, we've written for X, Y, or Z, and they always tell us we have to strike this sentence or redo this paragraph because this is the message they want to give. And I'm like, that's not what we're about. What we're about is you've served in some way, you've garnered your experience, and you have a view that the average person who hasn't had those types of experiences needs to hear. Yes. And so you write it. Right. All I ask is no hyperbole, no, off color language. And if you start to cite facts, you please cite your facts.
Cite them. Yeah.
Yeah. So that you can show where you got your information from. Different than opinion, but if you're citing facts, you just cite your site
Right.
stuff. And that's really how we run the website, right? And then on the app side, what I've done is, well, if I spent my whole life looking for information to present to those people in power to make decisions on behalf of the United States government, I figure, okay, I can find information that's germane and substantive to people in their everyday lives, that I think if they took time to look at it, read it, or watch the show, that they would get something out of it that would help them in their daily lives, whether that's political commentary or health issues, because there's a broad spectrum of stuff on the app that covers life, right? And I'm just using the lens of operational experience to pull in those things that I think could be helpful to people in their daily life. I'm not trying to bash anybody over the head and change. I'm just trying to say, this is worth your attention. So tune into the app and check it out.
Yeah. And so OpsLens is something that people can hop on their phone and go to the App Store. And the OpsLens is the app.
Yes, ma'am.
And
so
you can
it's in
download the app.
Apple, it's in Android, both on those platforms for the cell phone. The live TV portion is on the website as well, but you can't do chat room and all like you can if you're in the app.
Right.
And it's on Roku and Apple TV as well. And we're going to try to be on Fire Stick here in about 3 or 4 weeks.
So OpsLens offers commentary and insight on current events as well as issues that are prevalent in everyday life. And what's different from OpsLens that they may not find out there, like on Fox News or CNN or whatever else is out there?
Well, in particular, the app is interactive, and our goal is to grow a community, right, that appreciates the information let's face it, most of us tend to be center right, conservative, and so it's a conservative community basically, and it gives those people that are on the app the ability to use some of the video tech that have built into the app. So if you want to do a commentary, you're a follower of American Snippets or whatever the show is, right? You can use the icon of that show and create a video commentary to that show. Loved your last show. This is the topic I loved, or didn't like it. This is why. Or, hey, have you thought about doing this topic because this is important to me and my world.
Right.
And nobody seems to be listening anywhere. And then you take that video that you make and you can post it to the app. We can also push that to social media. So back into the mainstream platforms from our platform, you can push these vignettes, if you will, from followers, basically saying, this is what we're experiencing in our world, guys. Boom, and push it back into Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn.
That's awesome for a lot of reasons. And one of those is that someone who's watching a show or consuming the content who may not have that platform, who may have a very real point or something that's festering with them or is important to them, who could put it out on their own platform and get no response, can put it out under this platform where it's opened up to tens of thousands of people who tune into your shows. And all of a sudden, their viewpoint, their question, their idea or comment or insight is now put in front of tens of thousands of people so that helps elevate a listener too and expand their own reach and their own network and community. That's really cool. And I haven't seen that before.
And we have the ability to be those people that, obviously you wouldn't want to just do it to anybody, but people that are, not trolls.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you get trolls.
No, you get trolls.
Yeah.
I don't.
I tell you. But individuals can be made to be a reporter, and so the idea is you're using the app. That person could be designated to be a live stream reporter, and what happens is the minute they go live at an event, anybody who has the app says, Barbara is live now. on the OpsLens app. And so anybody who has the app can see, okay, I got to go. What's the live
What's she
thing
doing?
going
Where's
on?
she at? Like,
Yeah. And then you go in and, oh, she's at a peaceful demonstration trying to
Doc Barb.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Looking at what's really going on. And so now all the viewers of the app get a real time feed, if you will, from somebody within the community about what's going on in their world. They're reporting, basically, citizen journalism into the app. So that's currently the iteration that I have on the app. About third quarter, I think, second or third quarter of next year, what we're looking to do is then anybody who reports will be able to take that stream and multicast it to Facebook or Twitter until they cut it off. And then
I'm going to say, oh, they're going to love you.
Exactly. When they cut it off, it'll be on the app, right? And we'll be able to record and save it. Right now, we can't record it and save it, nor can we multicast. But the vision is to have it be able to do that, right? And then empower the followers even more with that ability, right?
That's really, really cool in a lot of ways. And I know there's very few places for people to have found to land. People, like me and like our audience and our community and our viewers who, just find themselves being pushed to one side because we question the narrative being fed on the other side. So when you're questioning a narrative and you're told to sit down, shut up, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, you're this or that, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Obviously, you're going to then, a lot of people are being submissive. I can't tell you, man, how many people have come to me, messaged me, people I know personally, or just know via online. They follow me online. They're like, I'm so glad that you do what you do and are saying what you do. I can't post that publicly. I can't share your stuff because I'll never work again, or because I won't be welcome in my in-laws' house again, or like, that's ridiculous.
You're telling a story there that
preaching to the choir, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing how many people. I love what you're doing. I say, oh, come and join. Help us out. No. I don't want a target on my back. I'm like, okay. Great.
Well, we're a nonprofit, and because we're hosting this event, Day, and we're going to have beneficiaries that are certain nonprofits. Oh no, we can't really put that out there because we're serving people from all aspects of politics. We're like, okay, so what's the problem? We're not telling you that we're not going to support you because people who use your services disagree with us politically. We're saying we'd like to support you and everybody you serve, regardless of. That didn't even enter we're not the ones who entered that into the conversation,
Bingo.
But we're the least taught. And so when this happens over and over and over, and you keep hitting the wall, you turn to people like you. I'm so glad you created this platform because, we were looking for somewhere to land and grow and connect and collaborate as well. And more people are coming over and shifting and doing that. I'm being a little smothered on the other platforms, absolutely being smothered on the other platforms as well. And it's unfortunate, but it gives rise to new opportunity and new leaders, people like you who are going to come out and start those platforms. How hard was that to start? How did you, because your team is like CIA agent, special officer here, this, that, your team's pretty scary, actually. When you look at, but how did you? I'm sure you're all nice people.
We are. Until we aren't.
Until you aren't, right? That's it. That's very true. We're very nice until we aren't. So I'll stay on your nice side for now, unless you piss me off, and then I'm just kidding. So. How did you gather that team together and talk about some of the people who are on your team, where they come from? What is their area of expertise? Experience, not expertise. What is it?
It's more eclectic, really, in terms of the people that you come across. I served with a lot of them. So a lot of the contributors that you'll see, at least from the agency side, I served with, Dan Harris, Luis Rueda. Luis was a senior executive. He, for many years, I worked with him. Great guy. Dan Harris, same. He was a senior executive. He got out and focused a lot on the Middle East as well. Gary Burnson, if you ever read the book Jawbreaker, he's like a brother. I was his deputy at one point in a overseas post. He ran the ground war in Afghanistan, at least in the beginning. Team Jawbreaker was the code for that. That's the book. But he and I go way back, so he's involved. Shelley Mateer, she's the editor for the articles for me on the website. Great lady. She was an officer in the agency as well. What we call a special operations officer. So she was she ran and managed a lot of the programs and dealt with guys like me, operations guys, who sometimes need to be slapped in the head to say, no, you need to rethink that and do something else. So that was her forte. Just a lot. Everybody's eclectic, in terms of the backgrounds that they bring and the expertises that they bring.
And everyone believes in this mission you have to
absolutely
offer a different platform. Is this your full-time gig? This is what you're doing now. You're investing your own resources and time and effort.
This is my own money, my own resources.
I know. I feel your pain. I feel it.
What we want to do is keep it free as well.
Right.
And so that's why the app is downloadable free. The idea there is, I believe subscription services are, I think they're a dying thing. I think only a few companies are going to be, able to sustain that. The Amazons and the Netflix, the Apples, they're going to be the ones who win. I don't think subscription to reach the people is the way to do it. Everybody's had enough up to here with, I'm paying $5 here and $10 here. Next thing you know, you're paying a couple $100 for subscriptions. So the idea is to keep it
to get
free.
The news. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So the idea is to keep it free. We still need to make money to keep the lights on. So, we're trying, ads and different novel ways of, getting money in to keep things running. But right now, it's just, it's a fight. It's a fight too, when your exposure is limited, with respect to at one point I had 950,000 followers on Facebook. It's whittled. Right. They whittled us down to, I think we're about 820 or something like that now. But I can't reach all of them.
Right. Yeah, you don't.
Facebook does not allow me.
Yeah, you go to boost the post, you're labeled political, and you're not allowed to boost it.
Exactly right. Yeah. And so there's the big frustration for me is, okay,
right.
You got almost 1 million people that want to see this, and you're telling them they can't see it.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, I can't make any money off of it because you're not allowing me to monetize to keep it going. So hell with it. I'm going to try to figure out how to tell them, okay, Facebook, I know you love it, but let's try the app, because that's something that's more diverse and inclusive with respect to your ability to interface with the hosts and be a part of the cycle. Right?
And one more question before we ask our last question here. I just want to make sure we get this point across. Say I am somebody who holds a completely liberal point of view, and I stand against everything. I disagree with everything that you all are saying. So I come on OpsLens and I hop on a news show or an article, and I don't troll, but I say, hey, I question what you said because of this or that, or did you see this or that? And I engage in thoughtful disagreement with you, and I challenge your views, and I come out there and say, this is why. Am I going to be shut down, or am I going to be allowed to put those comments on?
You're not going to be shut down. And in fact, we have several contributors who are center left that write articles. One of them wrote an article, and we blasted it out. And then somebody on Twitter wrote, this is crazy. This person, I don't agree with this person. And I wrote back politely and said, look, this person I happen to know and served with them. I don't agree with them, but I can still have a beer with them.
Yeah.
And the premise is to give people who served a voice. Okay. And so that's why his article's here. If you don't agree with it, please, feel free to tell us why you don't agree with it in a logical way.
Right.
So this person is an IT expert. They're on Twitter, Jace, Jaice Harmon. She's now a contributor on OpsLens. And she wrote back and said, I like what you're talking about. And she's actually very savvy, very sharp, has a lot to say. And so now she's contributing. But to your point, as long as it's within the realms of decency, I don't mind putting it up. I think it should be put up.
And that's what makes it unique too. Right. And so while you say that, you tend to be center right based, again, just as you and I were talking about earlier, that's not because we set out to be that way. It's because this is the core values we stand up for and profess and speak about and talk about. And so that's where we land. But the invitation remains open and actually is wanted to create some sort of middle ground because we all live here. We all have to,
exactly.
We have to figure this out. It cannot continue. This is not sustainable level in this country. So we have to figure out some solution, and platforms like yours are doing your very best to be a part of that solution. It's just whether or not, you can, I don't know how many times I hear that you can lead a horse to water, can't make a drink, right? I have horses. When I lead them, I'm like, oh, that freaking saying. It's true. But, you can put the olive branch out, but whether that's accepted or is like a gauntlet comes down in its place, that's not, you can't control that. All you can do is create the opportunity. And maybe one day. Yeah. Yeah.
And the environment. Yeah. And hope that they don't call you, to your point earlier, a racist or a xenophobe or because
that happens so often. Like, it's just, I don't even notice it anymore. Like, I don't take it to heart anymore. I'm like, okay, clearly you're not ready for this conversation. Come back. I'll circle back with you in 6 months and see if you're ready to have a conversation. But you're in timeout for now.
Well, exactly. And typically I found anybody who resorts to that out of the gate,
right,
they have no substance behind what they're saying anyway.
Right.
I mean, they resort to the emotional side of it and the hyperbole to shut you down, right? Yeah. Because they have no way to counter what it is that you're saying. Typically, that's what I found.
Right. All right. This has been so cool and informative. And again, I do feel like I could keep you going on and on forever, but can't do that. So I'm going to ask you this question that we like to ask on American Snippets. We started, a little bit of our story. We started American Snippets 3 plus years ago, when we thought the divisiveness then was at an unsustainable, whoops.
Yep.
But turns out we're in a good place because we're at the tip of the spear now, right there with you. Already built that up. But one of the things that we believe in is that even now with COVID and lockdowns and riots and sheer chaos happening in this country, we still believe in the power of the American dream. We believe that it is in fact alive and well. You just have to really be willing to get in there and put that time and effort in and go for it. Yeah. But we also know that the key to that American dream is that it's different for everybody. There's no one version of that for all of America. We all have our own idea of what the American dream is. We certainly have ours. And so I'd like to ask you, what's your idea of the American dream?
I think, and I've been living it. I've had the pleasure of being able to live my American dream. And I think part of that is the freedom to be able to choose to do something that you believe in, that you would like to do, that nobody's going to tell you that you can't do it, right? Some people may say, I don't like that idea. That's different, right? Your inability or barriers that are set up to prevent you from actualizing it, right? Don't tend to be there for us in America. And unless you travel overseas and live overseas and you see it on a regular basis because you've lived overseas in other countries, you do see systemic racism. You do see barriers of things that are overseas in these other countries that we don't have here. Do we have our problems? Yeah. But we have a beautiful system that empowers an individual if they're willing to risk failure. Okay. You got to be willing to fall on your freaking face. Okay. You will be rewarded if you do it, if you plug in and do it. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. May mean you fail a couple of times. But you have the opportunity to fail, right? Not the opportunity to sit there, shut up, and here's your here's your X, Y, or Z to be a good citizen, and we'll take care of everything because that's not what we're about. Right. We're about innovation and bringing out that creative spirit and taking those chances and those risks. So that's how I would sum it up.
I love it. I think you're one. I don't know that anyone else has mentioned the part about being willing to fail, like have your face plants. I have a garden full of face plants out there. They're growing tall and proud and strong, but that's a really big key point, is that you do have to be willing to suffer a little along the way and to take those. The good news is once you figure out how to fail and how to recover, it's like, okay, just like you don't even notice it anymore. You just keep going. So
exactly.
Look, thank you again, A, for everything you're doing, B, for the service you've already put into for our country, and for what you're continuing to do. And please remind everybody listening again how to connect with OpsLens, how to get involved, how to listen, how to, where can they go to be a part of the OpsLens community?
Yes, ma'am. You could go to OpsLens.com, OpsLens.com. And for the website, and from the website it'll direct you to the app store to get the app. Download the app, see our live shows. We got the Matlock Show, Patriotically Correct, just Real and Unfiltered, Polite Society, all great shows. Yeah. I think everybody would enjoy it through the app store or the website, OpsLens.com.
All right. Thank you so much again for taking the time to sit down with us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.